what I described Dayton?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going up. Like Dayton, Ohio, here we're truly working together to make a difference for entrepreneurs across the city.
There's so much talent here that people have not yet even seen.
To build a thriving small business is to build a legacy.
Well, my journey started 8 years ago as the founder of Mutt Sauce. So it was an all-purpose tomato-based specialty sauce that I got this recipe from my grandfather. So I've had the trials of being a food business owner for 8 years, and it has been a real roller coaster. But along the way, I think what happens is you start to think of how you can give back. And sometimes it's just knowledge, no gatekeeping. Like if you wanna know how to start a food business, I will tell you. I will tell you all of the details. And as I started doing that, people started seeking my expertise. And I started mentoring and I started consulting. And the one thing that I saw that was missing was there's different paths to being a successful business owner. You can start out at your home, which a lot of people are at home. Then you can move to what's called a commercial kitchen, which we're standing in right now. This will be a shared use kitchen incubator, a place where you can come and be a member, rent hours, and cook your food in large quantities. So I notice when I'm consulting them that they can't start at the contract packaging level. They need a commercial kitchen and it just didn't exist. So when you see a problem, you can either complain about the problem or you could make a solution. And I was raised by a Vietnam War veteran who does not like complaining. He said, you better find a way. So I went into Downtown Dayton Partnership and I told them that this was missing. And they said 2 other ladies walked in here the same week that you did saying, we have been renting out our tiny little kitchen and we're at capacity. We cannot help any more people. Please help us build a bigger kitchen. So that was Jamaica White and Debria Rice, owner of Divine Catering. And they said, if y'all met in all these years, separately, people in the food community knew of us, but we did not know each other. But when we met each other, I think what was great about talking about this concept of building a community kitchen, a commercial kitchen, was that they had the heart for it because they'd already been doing it. So because they love the community and I love the community, those values, those core values that we shared, I think contributed to making this what it is today.
I've been doing floors all my life. This is more ministry for me. My ministry is get people off the block and get them on the clock. We got to work. And so I started doing that, going, talking to people about, hey, come on, we got some openings, we got some jobs. You can learn how to do floors, you can hang drywall, you can learn some stuff. And business just grows from there. People were taking advantage of opportunities and, here we are now. I was one of those guys on the block, and I know what that block looked like. You're either gonna go to jail or you're gonna be dead. We wanna give you training. We wanna give you coaching. We wanna teach you how to hold down a decent paying job so you can take care of your family. And that's what ministry is all about. We believe in giving people second chances. We believe in working with people, supporting people getting to work and back home from work till they get it right, if they want it.
So I always like to say the grind never stops. Because I do have 2 businesses, I kind of have to, it's like having multiple children where you have to give attention, to different areas, what needs, help the most. So it does not look like the traditional 9-to-5 approach because I am full-time, I have a full-time job and then I have 2 businesses while also managing a toddler. So some mornings it looks like I'm sitting down here at 3 o'clock in the morning, as early as 5 o'clock in the morning, where I'm getting up and I'm able to devote that time, quiet time, like just me and my thoughts at the table, before I'm, put on mom hat, fiance hat, and behavioral health specialist hat. I currently work at a high school. We were a little short-staffed going through the pandemic. So while overseeing the behavioral health department, I also stepped in to teach freshman academy, like social emotional learning, while also doing some of the duties of the dean of students. So it was just kind of like a vicious cycle of, I'm in the classroom teaching, students are disruptive. So what happens with that disruption? They get kicked out of class, sent to the dean. Well, you put on dean hat, like stepping out of the teacher hat. And then once you, like have a conversation, you realize that it's a little more under the surface that's going on with the students. So just kind of wanting to proactively address the situation head on, and being the freshman academy teacher teaching SEL, it was kind of like, okay, I'm getting the direct experience. However, the curriculum that the school had purchased was not exactly tailored for the students that we serve. So it just came about like just direct, like experience working with the students, knowing what interventions work, knowing what, like they're going through, they're feeling, they're experiencing from the teacher side, but then also having that behavioral health experience. So with Unemotional, it kind of went really, really fast because it was like that idea just came naturally. It was like this was a gift that was bestowed on me. I have to execute. So around this time last year, they were doing the flyer pitch competition. I did take home the top prize for Unemotional. I, got really, really creative. But when I did my final pitch, I treated it like my classroom. Knowing that students really, really like culture and knowing that they really like current events, I tend to take, like a Drake lyric, a Beyonce lyric, whoever is hot at the time, I take it and I implement it into the classroom and curriculum, because we know traditional school just does not really work. However, ODE has not fully changed the way that is set up. So trying to make learning fun again.
I created Lenny as a brand for postpartum moms. And really, it came out of my own experience because I felt like at the time I created it, I was a second-time mom, and there was so much emphasis on pregnancy in the first 9 months. And when I came home from the hospital, I was just clueless in this postpartum phase. And you can kind of see it across all spectrums of society, right? Like in healthcare, you have 15 appointments, prenatal appointments, but after you have a baby, you just have this 1 6-week appointment, and then poof, you're done, even though you might still be recovering. And you see it in the way that, paid maternity leave isn't a federal policy yet, and how so many women have to choose between family and career or drop out of the workforce because there isn't enough support. And so there's just all these different aspects of the postpartum experience that I was really frustrated about and felt like it could be a lot better. So although I just started with this idea for, a tiny leak-proof nursing bra, in reality, I'm trying to create this entire brand that just is a voice to moms during this really hard experience, physically, emotionally, mentally, and just be real and honest about what to expect. I think sometimes that can be the hardest part for women, is going through this and being like, nobody told me how hard it was going to be. I now have a third daughter, all 3 girls, and so I'm living and breathing this postpartum experience right now. I mean, I was up 3 times last night, and you guys are here today, up nursing my baby or dealing with kids and bug bites. So it's a very real experience for me. And just to illustrate it a little bit more, let's see. So a lot of times people don't know exactly what a nursing bra is, and this is not the Lenny nursing bra, but this is kind of the status quo of what they look like. Most women find these really ugly, frumpy. They have these big bulky pads. To most women, this looks like something their grandma wears, and women don't want to wear this anymore. And it kind of just illustrates the state of innovation in the postpartum space. And like I mentioned, I mean, I spent 9 months pregnant with each of my daughters. I nursed each of them 18 months. So I spent twice as long in this postpartum breastfeeding stage. And I was just really tired of what I was seeing. So for me, I created, this is the Lunny bra. It's a lot chicer, it's more comfortable. It has a leak-proof layer that's actually built in, and that is unlike anything else that exists. That is what I have filed 2 patents for, which is really cool. Actually, both myself and my mom are listed on the patents because she helped create it. And I do have the first prototype here. It's actually not so far off with the final version, but this is kind of our first little, this was the first patchwork attempt that we made. We had a lot darker fabric, absorbent fabric to work with. You know, it's rough, it's unfinished, but I was able to have moms in my neighborhood try this on, and just as a concept, they can give me feedback like, would this be helpful to you in breastfeeding and not having these horrible stains come through your clothes or your shirts, or having to worry about this, because moms leak all the time, all day long. I didn't even know that before I became a mom. Like, it's not talked about. So I just got such great feedback on this first concept that we kept iterating over and over. So the cool part about being a community-led brand, like the way that I built it, is that moms have been part of this conversation since day one. I share a lot about my entrepreneur journey on social media, and so a lot of moms have been following me all the way and feel like they're part of it, because they are. Everything from crowdsourcing, you know, what my logo was going to look like, or what fabric to choose, or the fit. You know, I haven't created this in a silo. It's very much a community, and I'm very grateful for that.
This is an excellent example of how much mushrooms can grow off of one block. Now, they're very delicate, as you can see. Just getting them out, you will tear them up just a bit, but they taste the same. But this is a great example of a 10-pound block, and we can typically get anywhere to 2.5 to 3 pounds off of each 10-pound block of fresh mushrooms. And then if we sit them in a room, a dark, dry room for a week, they'll do a second flush, so we can get even more mushrooms out of them. So that is also awesome. This stuff will live forever as long as you feed it. This mycelium will live forever. There are only probably a handful of mushroom farms and businesses in the United States that are doing what we're doing. So locally, we are the only ones doing this. And we get calls, emails, texts all the time. People want to come here and volunteer to work, which we don't do that. We don't believe in unpaid labor. So you can't volunteer here. You need to be an employee. But we do get tours on occasion, depending, you know, on who it is. We will open it up eventually for educational tours to people, because we are educators. There are 2 of us teachers on staff here. One was elementary and I was high school science. So we are able to talk to kids and adults about what we do here. But it is unique. The medicinal line that we came up with was really out of need and desperation. You know, we have people that deal with chronic pain. High blood pressure. Everybody, you know, high blood pressure is pretty common in the United States. High blood sugar, pretty common in the United States. Mushrooms help all of these. They help your immune system. We're not just selling, you know, a treat. We're selling food that is actually good for people. So we all feel pretty good about that. Now, we all enjoy a nice juicy steak, and these mushrooms go great with a steak, right? But if you ain't got enough money for a steak today, you can have some mushrooms. You can also use mushrooms to make taco meat. You can make crab cakes out of them. You can make, I made a Southwest fake chicken corn chowder the other day with it. You couldn't even tell. It's just, people are just now getting into what you can do culinarily with fresh mushrooms as well. But you kind of need a mushroom farm every 100 miles, basically, or less. And there are people that are trying to start up their own mushroom farms. We get a lot of calls wanting us to help with that sort of thing, but a farm never rests. So you can't just take a day off and go do this or that. You have to be at this farm every single day because mushrooms grow every day.
I mean, when Charles and I came up with the concept, it was because of the fact that we hated to do laundry and we knew how valuable it could be to actually do the things that you want to do. So we decided that, we would make the sacrifice and allow other people to enjoy their time and enjoy the ability to go out and make memories with their families or go out and pursue their passions, hopefully to build, a little bit of a better world and, improve our community a little bit more by giving people or giving our community members the ability to, enjoy life the way they see fit. Yeah, it's immensely rewarding. Like, it's one of the greatest feelings to have when you hear, like, a family say, well, we were able to hang out and, to have a movie night this weekend because I didn't have to worry about doing laundry. I feel like sometimes the hardest thing is putting yourself out there and actually going and creating the business. You might not have all the resources or everything you think you need at one time, but the biggest thing that you have to do is get started. And then from there, the other things will fall into place. You just have to put in the work and believe that all the hard work that you're putting into this business is one day going to come to fruition. And we've been lucky enough that it has.
I feel like, I did this for so many years for somebody else. God said, just do it for yourself. Go knock on some doors. People know what you can do. And it just took off from there. I started this business about 11 years ago, picking up my grandson. I looked at the floors in the building at the daycare, and they was just terrible. And I said, well, man, who's taking care of these floors? They gave me a contact person, and I called them, and a year later, we got the contract. And it just started from there. And I ran into one of my sisters at church. She had found out that I had retired, and Miss Stinson, Belinda Stinson, and she said, now we need to get you to the next level. I said, well, what'd that look like? She said, okay, come on, I'll show you. So I became a chamber member and with other certifications, and my major contract was Dayton Metro Library, which happened about 5 years ago, and we nailed it. That was my first major contract. And her support and her leadership, and it's just been beautiful. I don't think I could have done this without her. Her and my wife is my two angels.
I know LeVar just joined our team about 6 months ago. 10 years ago, we did not have the networks, we did not have the resources, we didn't even have the conversations that are taking place now.
It's night and day. There is no comparison between what it was 10 years ago and now.
In 2008, Forbes magazine declared Dayton one of its dying cities. Leadership came together to try to combat that stereotype and prove that we are, in fact, very much alive. And in 2010, the group launched what is known as the Greater Downtown Dayton Plan. They invested a lot of time and effort into identifying areas in which resources could be pushed to try to develop certain aspects of downtown that would really make it the economic engine of the entire region.
So I think if you go back in time, what was really missing is the well-organized, strategic focus on the entrepreneur.
There were a couple programs, but there wasn't a community. There wasn't a connectedness to the efforts here in town, and that has really changed over the last 5 to 7 years. And even in the last couple years, that has become more formal through the Launch Dayton Partnership, which is 20 plus organizations that are working together regularly to make sure that we're serving entrepreneurs the best we can in Dayton.
When you're not integrated well, and when you're not thinking collectively, the entrepreneur is left to do way too much work. They've got to talk to organization A and then organization B and organization C, and you just hand the entrepreneurs off to organizations, and it puts way too much work on the entrepreneur. It's already tough to be an entrepreneur. You shouldn't have to work so hard to get support. And that's really the premise, I think, behind Launch Dayton, certainly what we at the Entrepreneur Center do. Get out of the way. Help the entrepreneur find their resources. Whether we provide it or somebody else provides it, we don't care. Just get out of the way and service and support these entrepreneurs in a way that we didn't in the past.
I think that business owners, for the most part, are people who see a need and feel a need. But oftentimes that idea doesn't make it to fruition because they lack certain resources in the community, because they don't have any mentors or role models that they can talk to about their idea to see if it's even feasible.
I mean, when you look at starting a new business, you're really on your own, and you're trying to understand, what are the resources and how do you, start a new business? What are the different processes? One of the interesting things is most entrepreneurs understand their business. They understand what it is and what they're passionate about. They don't understand business processes or marketing or business planning, and that's where SCORE comes in. It helps them, fill in those gaps that they don't have right now.
The Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce, it's not your grandfather's chamber. Today, it's much different. We have more resources than I've ever seen in our community. There is absolutely no reason, no excuse that any business should be out there trying to take this journey alone.
I think it is a transformation of our entrepreneurial ecosystem in the community. The way I describe it to folks, if you think about the fundamental things that an entrepreneur needs to create a business, now they're all under one roof in one spot. And that makes a huge difference for a local entrepreneur.
As long as you have an entrepreneurial dream, it's not so much a person type or like that, and it's not even so much where they are in the situation of running a business. Many folks have an idea that they see a vision of a business in operation, but a lot of times they don't know those intermediate steps they need to take.
You can't just have an idea and say, all right, well, I've got this idea and that's it. Like, there is an element of creating a foundation to that idea, of teasing out the inherent business value and saying, okay, I've figured that piece out. Now let's lay the actual foundations for running that business and creating it so that you have this idea that can turn into a business that can thrive.
I think that so many of the resources that are around us are untapped. People don't know that they're there. They're not quite sure how to look. They're not quite sure how to Google. But the beauty about the resources that are available is that once you're plugged in, it allows you to get a lot further faster.
Our only goal is to help businesses succeed. We're not in there to make money.
So many times you see businesses, specifically Black businesses, burn out rather quickly within that first year because they did not, effectively plan, check their market research, and do all of those different things, like the real nitty-gritty hard work. Making sure that you have all of the things that you need to see it through beyond a year, going 10 years, 20 years, and whatever you decide to do after.
But that requires hard work. It requires accessing and reaching out for resources, accepting the resources, being coachable to accept those things, and putting in the hard work to actually build the foundation so that you have something to scale against.
It's called the 6888 Kitchen Incubator after the women of the 6888th Postal Battalion from World War II. And their commander was Lieutenant Colonel Charity Adams, and she was a resident of Dayton, Ohio. This is her final resting place as well. But the women of the 6888, as they were called, were 855 Black females that they sent to Europe to fix a backlog of mail that nobody else wanted to do. So it was not a great job. They didn't really set them up for success, but they did it. And they relieved the backlog of mail. They made history. And then just this year, many of them have passed away. I think only 4 or 5 of them are still surviving, but they received the Congressional Gold Medal for their service to our nation. So they should have gotten it, right? They should have gotten their flowers while they were still here, but they still deserve to have that. And we, Jamaica Debris and I, wanted to invoke the spirit of these women, that they did an impossible job. They did it with grace and humility, and they put service before themselves and said, how much do we care about our people? For them, it's like we care about our soldiers are Americans who are trying to send care packages to keep them inspired, to keep them going. And for some people, they're sitting at home saying, I have hopes and dreams that I want to realize and I need help. And we want to be those conduits. We want to be the catalyst to those dreams coming true. So that's why it's called the 6888 Kitchen Incubator.
I think a lot of what has brought Dayton together are some of the hardships that we've endured. And I think that most recently, starting with like 2019, that like Oregon shooting, man, like I think that really crystallized a lot of things for people. But I think it was then when I started to see people working more towards a common goal. And that's when I started seeing more organizations that were not preaching like separation, but collaboration through positivity.
I don't know, maybe it's something about that Midwest culture. I'm not sure, you know. I think that even thinking back to the last couple of years with the shooting and the tornadoes, the way that our community came together was incredible. The entrepreneurs that we had at our previous facilities when we were at Monument and 444, they actually all came together and just stopped working. They went out, got a bunch of chainsaws, and they just drove to where the tornadoes hit and came together for our community. And I think that that was very impactful, and it showed, you know, the kind of character and grit that Daytonians have.
And you know what, like, I think that we've come out stronger as a city. I think that the creative minds have blossomed and have made themselves more visible.
The community has come together in a way that, you know, back in the day, I don't think many of us really viewed as possible.
There's something unique about this region and its people. There is a genuine hunger here to want to help.
Collaboration, integration, respect for each other, trust in each other.
Business should definitely be about people. I think we've gotten away from that sometimes. These things have to exist in harmony with the communities that they're in, with the workers who make them successful, as well as the profits that we're trying to generate. And the profit has to have the intention of supporting those people in that community.
We're Dayton, okay? Like, if we support each other, we keep the money in our economy, guys. Like, and that's one thing that I really think is important. Supporting the local economy through keeping the dollars here.
My grandfather definitely believed in family, definitely believed in legacy. So what you see in the way that I operate is how do we build a legacy, not just for myself and my family, but now like how do we build a legacy for Dayton? Dayton is known for so many great things, whether it's aerospace or aeronautics, but it also has some of the best food. It has some of the best food that I have ever had in my life, and I traveled a lot with the Air Force. So how do I help solidify that legacy that they truly deserve? There's so much talent here that people have not yet even seen. And I have, only because I've consulted these food businesses, and I said, when you get a space, you are going to show out. Oh my gosh, the world just does not know the talent that you have, but I look forward to being a part of bringing that out and showing everyone.
I'm of the opinion that positivity kind of like attracts positivity. And I think a lot of that positivity is really what has driven Dayton into somewhat of a creative stratosphere like over the last 10 years, man.
None of this happens without confidence and belief in yourself. Whether you're an entrepreneur that's got to step out there and take the risk and be told no a lot, you got to have confidence. Now, think collectively. If I was to talk to the community at large, I would say believe in yourself. We've been believing in ourselves as a community, as peers, for the last 4 or 5 years, and look what's happening, right? Dayton is a model for other cities. Who'd ever thought we would say that? Dayton is attracting businesses internationally. Who'd ever say that was going to happen?
So you really got to decide what it is you like to do, what it is that you have a passion with. There's so many different things you can do, and there's so many niches out there. You've got to pick one, but it's not about, what I've learned, it's not about making money. It's not about, what the profit is at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it's about, are you doing something you really love to do?
The hardest step that a lot of entrepreneurs make is that very first one where you're dipping your toes into something you just are clueless about.
So a lot of it in the first 2 years, I will say, were like trial and error runs with like, ooh, no, this doesn't work. We have to completely scratch it.
You just have to take the first step. The first step was absolutely the hardest for me because I felt so much imposter syndrome to say, hey, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I've never designed anything before. I don't know anything about apparel or manufacturing, but I'm gonna make a leak-proof nursing bra and I hope you all wear it.
It's wild to think of how everything in your life is connected, even growing up. I had a lot of imposter syndrome as I grew up because I never really felt fully qualified to do any of the things that people would be impressed by today.
I just started reaching out to other entrepreneurs, and specifically ones that were also moms like me, that were creating products similar to mine, to say, hey, how are you doing this? How does this work?
A lot of my job is going out and just like introducing myself to folks, like, hey, what do you do? Like, what are you interested in? Here's what I'm doing. How can we make this work?
Like just contacting different brands, businesses, and manufacturers from New York to California and back.
It's so overwhelming, but when you break it down into chunks to say, okay, I'm gonna create this prototype and I'll just have this group of moms try it on, and then we'll make another one and have the next group of moms try it on, and just kind of break it down into tangible steps, it becomes a lot less overwhelming.
You definitely need help. It's a community effort. You can never forget, you're standing on the shoulders of others while you're building a business. And as long as you're doing right and building up and doing it the right way, you're making them proud and, using their resources the best way possible.
I feel like I'm out of my comfort zone every single day in trying to create this, but if I've learned anything, it's just kind of taking one step at a time. And some things you try to be really strategic about and want to have it go a certain way, but a lot of other times there's a pivot, and sometimes it's been better than I ever would have expected. It's super challenging, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it is really hard to build a business and your family at the same time, right? There's just the reality of time constraints.
There have been so many times that I have wanted to give up. There have been so many times I'm a one-man band where I've just wanted to refund everyone on the smooch side of their money because I'm like, I'm only one person. I'm trying to cook dinner. Like I'm trying to keep my toddler from jumping off the couch. Like, it's just been so many different things where it definitely is challenging. But I feel like if it's something that you're truly passionate about and you feel like that aligns with your purpose, like you'll find a way to make it and push through.
If that mountain was smooth, we'd never make it to the top. It's got to be rough and climbing that mountain so you can grab hold of something and climbing. If it was smooth, you just slide back down. So I tell people, stay focused, don't give up. Hard work pay off.
How many of us have been in like dead-end jobs, right? Where we just felt like we were doing the same thing, but we're not really making a difference. Like, the only thing we're probably doing is like making the CEO money, right? This is something palpable. Like, we're a co-op. Everybody's got skin in the game. So everybody is motivated to make Guided by Mushrooms like the best company it can be.
It's fun. It's when it gets to be work, then I'll stop. But it's a lot of fun, helping people get decent paying jobs where they could take care of themselves and their family. So it's fun to really train, teach, and coach people on how we do it.
And I'm telling you, one of the most rewarding parts of my job is when somebody comes up to me and they're like, man, I felt horrible, but I started taking your products and I feel better. And wow, like that kind of crystallized why I even do this thing. Like, I want to make a change in people's lives. Like, I want fresh mushrooms in underserved areas. I want people who feel badly to be able to take something that is safe and non-toxic, and I'll help them feel better. Like, that just kills it for me. Like, yeah, what a good feeling to know that you are actually making a difference.
I kind of feel like I'm sort of leading the pack, right? All these moms are saying, yeah, we want something better. Yeah, we're tired of the way things are. And so that's what gets me going every day. And being able to show my daughters that too, I mean, that's just amazing. And being able to show them work ethic and why mommy works. Yes, the money really isn't there for a long time to start. It is a huge, investment of your time and resources. I think sometimes as women, we feel a lot of mom guilt, and just recognize that you tapping into your passions, your kids see that, and that is just as valuable as spending time with them. And so, you don't have to give up entirely who you are when you become a mom. And that's what I want to encourage other women to do.
You don't have to feel qualified to be qualified. If you believe in something bigger than yourself, Rock Bottom has a trampoline. So this is Dayton bouncing back. This is a trampoline for not only myself as a part of a trio of determined moms to do something for our children to look back on and say, like, Mom did that. Oh my gosh, she did that. And it's also a trampoline for these entrepreneurs who are trying to get back out there and serve their community. They just need a little help. So.